You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network. Den säger naftströmningen i en celery.
Ladies and gentlemen, after a long delay, we're back. This is episode 15 of the Angry Marks Rewind podcast here at AngryMarks.com, your number one source for pro wrestling, mixed martial arts news and information, and by God, after the week we had at WrestleMania weekend, who the hell cares about this damn sport anymore?
What a... you've got... I don't know.
I've lost so much love for this sport because of this bloody weekend.
Well, let's get into it then.
Very briefly, what we're going to do today, we have a lot to talk about. It's been a while between more technical issues and computer parts not arriving and parts that don't fit and 7.5 hour shows. We're going to basically, I guess, just go over our brief WrestleMania weekend thoughts, NXT TakeOver, G1 Supercard. I also watched the documentary 350 Days. I'm going to touch briefly on that. And then our main event is this week's episode of the Rewind Show. We are going back to 1994 and WCW Superbrawl 4. So, before we get to that, Mike, how did you spend last weekend, WrestleMania weekend?
Well, I actually did not see much of NXT, so because I tried to watch some of it. I saw the War Raiders Black and Ricochet match, which I liked, and then I think that's the only match from NXT I saw in full.
Yeah, that to me was the highlight of the entire weekend. And if I was ever thinking about, dropping a ton of money to go to one of these big WrestleMania weekends, not only just to see Mania itself, but all the tiny little indie shows, nothing made me want to not go than seeing the clip. I don't know what show it was. I don't know who these guys are. I think maybe it was Janela's group. I don't know if you've seen the video or not, but there's a clip at some indie show over the weekend of two guys upside down in a corner mashing their bare asses together. Have you seen this?
I have not, and I don't know if I want to.
Oh. Okay. One guy is standing on the inside of the ring on the second rope with his pants down. The other fellow is upside down with his ass up in the air, and they just proceed to just ram each other's butts together. And this goes on for like a minute.
Wrestling!
What has become of my life?
What has become of this sport that we've watched for most of our lives?
Oh God! And then Mania was 7.5 bloody hours. And this was probably the first WrestleMania that I actually went to sleep, like for the rest of the night, like 2/3 of the show in. I didn't watch the main event. I didn't watch. Let's see. There was at least 4 matches that I didn't see because I was just so damn tired and I just went to bed.
And I bet you haven't gone back and tried to watch it.
I watched the women's main event.
What a mess that was.
I have not watched Finn and Blaster Lashley. I didn't
miss anything.
I did not watch Kurt Angle and Baron fucking Corbin.
Baron fucking Corbin.
I thought Kofi and Daniel Bryan was it was okay, but it was not a WrestleMania main event championship match that people are going to be talking
I don't
about.
think Kofi's reign's going to be too long. I think he might hold it until SummerSlam.
I'd be shocked if he held it on until Money in the Bank.
I think he'll at least get through Money in the Bank and maybe Extreme Rules, but I don't think he'll hold it through the summer.
Did you hear what superstar Billy Graham said about Kofi this week?
And he needs to do steroids. I saw that.
Guess what? him being on steroids does not make him The Rock or Steve Austin.
No, it makes him the Junkyard Dog.
And what else was that weekend? Did you catch Ring of Honor and New Japan's co-branded G1 Supercard?
Yes, I did catch that.
And what did you think of that show?
That was a good show. I mean, it had its moments of weird. They had the Battle Royal at the beginning, well, as the pre-show, which the show actually started with halfway through the pre-show because I don't know if they told cable companies that, hey, we're going to have this pre-show Royal Rumble thing, and you started halfway through the pre-show when we had Jushin Liger, and started as Jushin Liger was coming out actually, and then we had a few surprise entrances. One of them being King Haku or Ming or whatever, and the Great Fucking Muta.
This whole thing where they do like the battle royal, where the guy thinks he's won, but then there's the one person that they thought was eliminated, but comes back in. Like, that's become such a fucking cliche.
We saw it in our fucking WrestleMania battle, the women's one,
right? And you don't think that they weren't watching, so.
And
Enzo,
we also
Enzo and Cass.
I hope ROH does not sign these guys.
They would have not been on TV if they didn't have some sort of deal.
Shit.
If this was a shoot, I mean, okay, think about it. Enzo and Cass in a shoot trying to take on Bully Ray and the Briscoes, they would have been murdered.
Hospitals. Call the New York PD. Somebody just got murdered.
What is ROH thinking with these two jokers?
We need star power in our division.
Oh, so we're going to fucking Enzo and Cass?
And speaking of needing star power, the Women of Honor also brought in the beautiful people.
Right, because it's it's fucking
2009.
God damn it.
Because we need those shit on the Women of Honor division even more. You just had Tennille Dashwood and Madison Rayne, who I know through no fault of really Ring of Honor or Tennille, like, she had injury problems, but Madison Rayne could have helped her division because she's got veteran presence, and you did nothing fucking with her.
Okay, so after seeing that sort of, I don't know, it was an okay show. That was another show that was way too long. This whole idea of them bragging to their stockholders that, oh, we have all these hours of content.
Problem is, less is more sometimes.
You screwed over like pretty much the whole state of New Jersey with these people trying to get home in the fucking rain. They're trying to get Ubers that aren't showing up. Their train stops at midnight. There was like thousands of people that were stuck at fucking MetLife Stadium until sometime between 4 and 5 a.m. because
Jesus fucking Christ,
they couldn't get anywhere. And it's not like you can just walk. Okay, MetLife Stadium, it's in the middle of the state, but it's also just in the middle of fucking nowhere. You could probably walk for a few miles and still not be out of the goddamn parking lot. And then the
wrestling, everybody.
The mayor of whatever fucking city this was, or the governor of New Jersey, said they have really screwed over our public transit, and we're not going to allow them to have shows that go on this long. Well, put your money where your mouth is.
There's still Christy Todd Whitman.
I don't know why I'm so angry about this for a show I barely even watched.
And what about the 350 documentary?
While I was in my deep depression, I figured, well, what will bring my spirits up than a documentary about old wrestlers near death?
Oh, Jesus.
So I watched 350 Days, which is a documentary that was put out by, I don't know what the guy's name was. He basically followed along over the course of like 5 years. He got footage of pretty much a lot of the major stars from the 80s. Your Greg Valentine's, Bret Hart, Bruno Sammartino, Ox Baker, who actually was the star of the show. And
oh God, it's an old fogey beyond the mat.
Pretty much. And if you're a brand new fan, or if you've only been a fan for a couple of years and you really want to know how generations past lived on the road, it's a very educational documentary if you believe what these guys are telling you. If you are a long-time hardcore fan like Mike and myself, you've probably heard all these stories before. They're nothing new. It's stories about people, guys getting drunk on the road, Flair and Valentine doing 8 balls of cocaine, and then driving to whatever next town they're going to with rats ready to service them. Marty Jannetty is shown here. You can barely understand him.
Oh boy!
The only real disappointment I had with this was watching Bret Hart when he was being interviewed and talk about his cocaine use. If that's true,
really,
that really hurt my heart, because as a Canadian, Bret, he's been like a Canadian hero. He's an icon. He's one of my personal favorites, and to hear that it was this was the life that he led. It kind of I always thought he was the one guy. He was the paragon of virtue.
Nope. But
there was no escaping it. They interviewed J.J. Dillon and Ted DiBiase about their infidelity. J.J.'s been married 3 times, and he was unfaithful from the very first day because he was leading a double life. And really, it's a fairly depressing documentary. Although, if you see the Ox Baker portion, he is completely in character the whole time.
Oh boy!
And he has such pearls of wisdom, like, if you had to get the money, you had to wrestle every night. And then there's a brief pause, just to get the money. And
that's all that's Baron Von Raschke. And that's all the people need to know.
And then he brought us into his kitchen, and he showed what a wonderful chef he is by cooking up a pound of ground beef.
Delicious.
So I don't know how to. You know what? If you have an hour and a half to kill, if you can find a copy of it, it's like I said, it's nothing new. If you've heard any of these sort of road stories, I'm not sure exactly how many of these stories I actually believe, but as far as the documentary goes, it was very well put together. So check it out. 350 days. Mike, anything else before we head into the meat of this show?
No, speaking of meat, let's head into it.
Superbrawl 4, brought to you by World Champ... Oh, pardon me. We're going to keep that in. World Championship Wrestling, February 20th, 1994, from the Albany Civic Center in Albany, Georgia.
Oh, boy. What a town. Because we couldn't get a better town.
You always know that the show is going to be ghetto when it's from the whatever Civic Center.
Yep.
Because Civic Center has never had a very, what's the word? I don't know. It sounds...
Civic Center is where you go for a wrestling show in where I go for shows, like the Augusta Civic Center or, the Providence Civic Center in Rhode Island.
It's where you go where there are scheduling conflicts with the local bingo promotion.
No, that's a VFW. That's more ECW venue.
So the opening video package has they have that cool announcer that I like that kind of ripped off WWF from the time. They hype up the matches, including Ric Flair defending not only the WCW World Title but his life. He's defending his own life against Vader.
Vader! Woo!
There's a video montage of Ric Flair training. He's doing the elliptical.
And Vader tearing apart locker rooms from Starrcade.
He's running stairs. He's in the gym, probably right after being with 3 of the local rats that night. He probably hadn't even slept. He just went straight to the gym.
Well, this is WCW. This might have been around the time where Bischoff got house shows.
Well, then he would have had time to do all this extra cardio.
A lot of time to spend with Beth and a very young Charlotte.
Our announcers are Tony Schiavone, and making his pay-per-view debut is Bobby the Brain Heenan. He had been on the Clash of Champions, and he'd been on a couple of the TV shows on the weekends.
He was doing Saturday. Either he or Ventura was doing Saturday night.
Yeah, Ventura, up until this point, he had stated on the hotline that he was going to be at this show, but at the last minute, he wasn't there, so they used Bobby. Tony said that Ric Flair just got his doctor's release, and Heenan predicts that Flair will lose with the Boss as the referee.
Big old Southern Sal.
We get the announcement that Johnny B. Bad and Michael Hayes will hook it up after coming off a tag team match double cross. So this is your opener, okay?
Or is it?
Johnny B. Bad versus Michael Hayes. I think I'm the only one that loved early to mid '90s WCW themes. I
like some of them. I like the Johnny B. Bad one.
Right. I like
Dustin's.
I was singing Dustin Rhodes' theme in the car yesterday.
Rick Rude's I like. I don't like the Leonard Skinner knockoff here for Hayes, though, the Freebirds.
Yeah, they did not come out to Bad Street USA, and I don't know if that was is that a copyright issue, or were they just not using that?
No, this was the Slam Jam era, so they came out to the Freebird Forever song.
Yeah, that's a fail.
Yeah, and this is the only time they would use that, because this is the last time you would see the Freebirds.
So, Michael Hayes is he's
Jerry Lawler.
He's legitimately injured, but he's being pushed in a wheelchair to the ring by Jimmy Garvin. His ribs are all taped up.
And one of them says Hayes says he slipped down the stairs, and Garvin says he slipped on a banana peel. And I'm like, I'd love to be on a court defense stand with these guys, because they wouldn't be able to get their story straight, and I'd be going to jail.
Well, Mean Gene tries to get the scoop. They call in Commissioner Nick Bockwinkel, who just stoically makes his way into the camera frame. Garvin and Hayes are trying to make excuses as to why they can't wrestle. And
did we tell you were the greatest world champion ever?
Yeah, they start sucking up to Bockwinkel. Garvin produces a doctor's note, and they just assume that it's legitimate. So Bockwinkel explains that the crack legal team has dug into the filing cabinets and produced a contract for the Freebirds that is still active. So
somehow,
despite Jimmy Garvin claiming that he's been retired for the last 2 years,
and he's a flight. He's not a flight attendant.
He's a commercial pilot now. So if that contract is still active, isn't he in breach of contract?
It's WCW.
So Bockwinkel expects Hayes not to be able to work, but he forces Garvin to take the match, and Bockwinkel threatens to fine and suspend them both indefinitely if Garvin doesn't work.
I would have just taken this indefinite suspension.
So let's see. You got one guy who is legitimately injured, and
the other guy who hasn't had a match in a year, or almost 2 years.
And you got another guy who's retired and is a commercial pilot. So why does he give a fuck? And both of them are panicking for being suspended from this non-existent job.
Johnny B. Bad in the ring, just shaking and nodding his head.
Right, yeah. Meanwhile, Johnny's been standing in the ring for the last 10 minutes. So he's wasted 2 of his bad blasters, which was terrible. So Heenan is unreasonably upset at Bockwinkel's decision because
he can't even get the words out.
Heenan was as upset at this as he was on commentary when Ric Flair lost the WWF title.
Yep.
So this is your opener. It's shit. It's a useless segment, and this probably went, 12, 15 minutes?
When you could have, I guess, what else could you have put in that spot, I guess? You have Ricky Steamboat here not doing anything.
Think about it. You had Steamboat, you had Bagwell, you had, who else was on the roster that, the Barbarian?
Scorpio and Bagwell.
Simmons, if he was still working. All these guys that were on under
Ice
contract.
Train.
Oh, fuck Ice Train. The last 2 matches.
Shockmaster. He can fall to the.
The last 2 matches got cut by a combined 24 minutes because of shit like this.
You could have just canceled this match and had both Thunder Cage matches go about 10 extra minutes.
Mm-hmm. Our opening actual match is a tag team of Harlem Heat.
You're Hall of Famers.
They're Hall of Famers. Kane and Cole.
Booker and Stevie.
Kane, the mayor of Knox County, and Michael Cole.
Oh my! It's heat time!
Versus the team of Thunder and Lightning.
Batman and Robin.
What the fuck were Thunder and Lightning wearing?
Capes.
There's these two identical looking green guys who they just came out of bodybuilding school. There's no distinguishing characteristics to tell them apart. They don't even have their names on their tights. Just two
chop guys that got on pay-per-view somehow.
Two plain white dudes in matching singles.
Scorpio and Bagwell not being here. They should have been in this match with Harlem Heat. At least it would have been better.
Right. With purple capes. So I guess Harlem Heat was the same, but at least we know who they are. But Thunder and Lightning...
They've been around for like 6 or 8 months by this point. Right.
Thunder and
Lightning were basically just guys they used on Worldwide.
Yeah. Thunder and Lightning's gear was worse than well done.
Oh, Jesus. And one of Thunder and Lightning would come back as the fake Sting.
What?
Jeff Farmer.
Shut up.
Look it up.
I mean, I believe you, but I can't picture that. I bet it was Lightning.
That would... I don't know. I know he would also come back as the Cobra gimmick. Feud with Sergeant Craig Pittman later on too.
Oh my god! The wonderful career of Lightning.
Well,
so Booker and what I'm gonna assume is Lightning. They start off and they're exchanging arm bars, and it's a typical match start. Heenan with one of his trademark commentaries about going back to the same hold. So doing the same hold over and over again is boring as fuck. So sorry, brain.
It's wrestling psychology, but the crowd is not enthralled.
You go back to the same hold. It's like, the same rest hold that... I don't know. So Thunder Thunder hits a Flying Warrior shoulder block on Stevie Ray. Is Stevie Ray Kane or Cole?
I think Cole is Booker T.
All right, well, for the purposes of this, I'm calling him Stevie Ray.
Yeah, okay. Kane is the bigger of the two.
So singlet number 2 gets distracted, and he gets thrown outside, and they get the heat on him. During a rest hold, we get an inset video of Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Ricky Steamboat just sitting. So I'm glad that we cut away.
Steamboat's like, I'm just here. I'm not even booked for this show.
I got myself a nice new shirt, a nice tie. I don't have to work, and I'm still getting paid. So Booker misses a top rope elbow, and Lightning gets the hot tag, air quotes. Lightning threw a drop kick during his comeback that completely missed Stevie Ray by at least a foot.
Thunder would be in the ring now.
The camera got incriminatingly bad angle of Stevie, and he still sold it and still took a bump. Tony tries to cover up in commentary by saying that he just brushed it off. So why did he take the bump then?
And the finish is a kick to the head.
So singlet
stomp to the head.
Yeah,
stomp to the ear.
Singlet number 1 tries an O'Connor roll on Booker. Stevie attacks Thunder with a stomp to the head, which was enough for Booker to get the win.
Nothing says jobber like losing to a stomp. And Booker T and Harlem Heat would be the tag champions by the end of '94.
I was going to say, these are your 10-time champions right here.
Oh.
So we get...
you're going to see a theme with these first 4 matches, and that's that they would be perfectly... 3 of the 4 would be perfectly fine TV matches, but not really like a pay-per-view type thing.
These are opening matches at a house show in front of 700 people.
Yeah, not in front of probably about 2,000 people in Albany, Georgia.
So Mean Gene is backstage in front of Ric Flair's dressing room, and you could not find less intimidating cops trying to guard the door so Vader can't get in. Just these random rent a Keystone cop.
Was Doug Dillinger not available tonight?
Oh no, we'll see Doug later on. I think. No, was that him? No, we'll see. Next match, The Equalizer, Dave Sullivan. What does he make equal? What is so uneven that he has to equal it out?
I don't know.
I'm guessing that there's good wrestling, There's good matches, and he comes in and he equals it out with shitty wrestling, which is exactly what we got here. The Equalizer versus Jungle Jim Steele. Now, you and I had a discussion about this beforehand, trying to figure out who this guy was, and I think I was correct.
Is he real Lord of the Jungle?
Well, no, you claimed that he was somebody else.
No, you said he was the Renegade, which I said I don't think that's him.
No, I never said he was a Renegade.
You said... I don't know.
You're trying to confuse the listeners.
I'm already confused.
Jungle Jim, he's doing just a showcase of all the moves that you learn in wrestling school, arm drags, monkey flips, what have you. So, Jungle Jim...
This match is nothing. It's about 6.5 minutes, and Jungle Jim Steele wins.
Bobby spent the whole match with one-liners trying to entertain Tony until he gets yelled at in the headset. And then Tony puts over how great these matches are in previous Super Brawls, but this wasn't one of them. And,
he said, we've had some great openers, and then goes on to mention a match between Two Cold Scorpio and Benoit from the year before, which was not the opener for that show.
So the finish here was Jungle Jim hits a running Thez press, which was called the Steel Trap. And if you've seen a Thez press, you know how it looks. This guy particularly was thrusting his junk in Evad's face mightily to get the win.
Thrust is not a must.
And Jungle Jim's music is laden with elephants and other jungle
He's
sounds.
from the jungle.
He's kind of like, like if Ultimate Warrior and Superfly Snuka somehow managed to have a love child,
God.
it'd be Jungle Jim.
He's in the jungle, the mighty jungle.
But he's not sleeping tonight.
Nope.
We get Mean Gene on the interview platform.
With somebody.
And he's plugging the hotline. For 99 cents, you can vote if it was fair that Nick Bockwinkel threatened to suspend the Freebirds. So,
who cares?
That whole opening angle was just a ploy for you to use the hotline.
Who cares?
So they're interviewing Nick Bockwinkel and Ricky Steamboat. Steamboat has been negotiating for a year to get a title shot.
Wasn't he TV champion at some point the year before?
92, I believe. Yeah,
93.
92 and 93, he was TV champ, because I know that he
definitely feuded with Regal in 93 for the TV title.
Right.
Starrcade 93, that match is disappointing, and we'll probably talk about it one day.
Because I remember that we talked about one of the Halloween Havoc reviews that we did. Ricky Steamboat lost the title to Scott Steiner, and then they took Scott Steiner off TV.
Yes. And then the Steiners show up in WWE a couple months later.
So, why has it taken Steamboat a year to negotiate a title shot?
Oh, the crack staff at WCW, everybody.
He should be like, hey, I'm the only one that's worth a good goddamn in this company. So if you want to
besides Flair, I'm the only one who's...
Put me and Flair in. So Steamboat is...
Well, we got to get this Vader match out of the way first.
Steamboat is just jumbling his words, and it takes him forever to basically explain that he's challenging the winner of Flair and Vader.
We got to kill time here, folks.
Yeah. Speaking of killing time, we have Diamond Dallas Page in full Vegas
regalia
versus Terry Taylor.
Diamond Dallas Page with one of his Diamond Dolls, but not Kimberly.
No, so that was a fail.
I don't think they had to introduce Kimberly yet. That would be the next year.
So Taylor's most famous gimmick, of course, was the Red Rooster. Why would he still wear the exact same gear? Red tights, red boots, red jacket. The only thing missing is his fucking red mohawk.
Because he wants people to chant Rooster? This match comes from the fact that DDP was like picking names out of a fishbowl. And I actually remember seeing this on TV. But I was also 7, so I probably don't remember much of it.
No, I never got the TV back then, and thank God I didn't. So,
yeah, this is a syndicated angle.
Right. So Paige
not a WCW Saturday Night one.
Paige tries to jump Taylor early. Taylor gets the early advantage with a spinning back kick, which was kind of impressive. He slaps on a cross arm breaker, but Paige makes the ropes, and he bails to the floor. Heenan is creeping on the Diamond Doll, who doesn't realize that Bobby is a character on the show.
Says, "Give me the number of the Diamond Doll, Tony."
And Diamond Doll thinks...
And makes a bunch of masturbation jokes throughout the match.
DDP hits a Cobra Clutch while attempting a pin, so more rest holds. Fast forward to the end. Paige misses a charge in the corner, and Terry Taylor, the Red Rooster, rolls up future multiple world champ Diamond Dallas Page with a schoolboy for the pin.
Shows you where DDP was on the totem pole here at this point.
So Gene is again back on the interview platform with a German announcer. He says some German words, and that's it.
And Tony tries to get Bobby to translate it.
So now
which is a gag that I think Gorilla tried to do too.
Yeah. So now we get that ultimate payoff from the opening angle. We've got Johnny B. Bad versus...
Is a Vader segment in there somewhere?
There could have been. It probably... I don't know.
It was before the Taylor Page match, and it wasn't much, but it was Gene trying to interview Vader, and Vader like saying, "I don't want to talk to anybody," and chasing him out, throwing a chair for some reason.
Yeah, he was. What did he have against chairs? He was just an angry man.
A big angry man.
So where are we here? Yeah. So Johnny B. Bad and Jimmy Jam Garvin pushing Hayes down the aisle in his wheelchair.
And Michael Hayes, who we'll find out later in the match, is mic'd.
So Garvin was in fear to have to wrestle, so he gets in and he starts to pose and does the Freebird strut, showing no sense that he's afraid in any way of losing his job. And Hayes is a fantastic cheerleader.
I'm back after this show anyway, so it don't matter. And Hayes would be in WWE within a year. So.
Hayes, you can hear him from the outside, "Do it for me, do it for your crippled brother."
Shivani's mad because Hayes is in a wheelchair.
Yeah. And
he shouldn't have to be in a wheelchair because we have fans that are in wheelchairs. Or something like that.
Garvin sends Johnny into the top turnbuckle, and the ref is getting on him. And you can clearly hear Garvin said, "Don't fuck with me." And so you got Heenan on one side of the ring at the announce table, and then you have the ring, and then you have the ramp. And Michael Hayes is sitting in his wheelchair on the opposite side, on this ramp.
"Hey, Bobby!"
And Michael Hayes and Bobby are having this conversation, yelling at each other back and forth.
"Hey, Bobby! Hey, Michael! It's good to have you back. It's good to be back."
So they're just putting each other over, yelling across the ring at each other.
Yelling across a crowded building.
Yeah, Johnny counters the DDT. Johnny's special indicator is now blinking. If he was a character in WWF No Mercy.
Yep.
And Johnny knocks him out with an uppercut. He lets him stand up, and Johnny gets the pin with the top rope sunset flip.
Yay!
So then Johnny is about to attack Hayes in the wheelchair when Garvin lays him out. He hits a Stone Cold Stunner on him, and they call it the 911.
Introducing a new move when you're not going to be seen again.
So Gene tries to get in another interview with Vader, and again he is pushed aside.
Hey, and the TV title is next.
Yeah, this was a match. Two guys. It's Arn Anderson challenging Lord Steven Regal. When I saw this, I was like, "Oh, these guys must have worked each other before." And I tried to find something, and I couldn't find it. So was this their first?
And probably only meeting.
Big time TV match?
I think so. William Regal, or Lord Steven Regal, accompanied by still Sir William, who is Memphis Territorial Wrestlers Bill Dundee.
Yeah. And we get our first appearance of Michael Buffer of the night. Buffer, he was not his usual Buffer self.
This might have been the first time he was ever used.
So he was listing off a bunch of European titles that Regal had held. I don't know.
Who cares?
I don't know if that's legitimate or not. They announced that the time limit for television title matches has been increased from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. So
actually, they said it was usually 15, but it was 10 for TV and 15 for pay-per-view.
Right. So then why isn't it called the pay-per-view TV title match?
I don't.
You're going to have different rules for it. Be consistent, goddammit.
WCW's rules were never consistent.
And, oh yeah, we'll get to that when the main events come. So as soon as they announced that the time limit had been extended to 30 minutes, we knew this was going long.
Because they had nothing else on the undercard.
To my knowledge, why would they need to extend this time limit? Because Regal and Anderson never really worked before. So the only reason you would extend the time limit is if they did a 10-minute time limit, say on TV, and Regal just put it in the deep freeze and didn't want to defend the title. So then you make the rules in Anderson's favor. But they didn't do that here. They just automatically went to the next, like, the stip match.
I think when they were I think this is probably one of those, they were timing out the show and they're like, shit, these opening matches aren't gonna be too long. Let's just give these guys 30 minutes.
Well, that was a mistake.
Yes, because it's a lot of stalling.
So Regal refused to shake the dirty, disgusting hand of this commoner, Arn Anderson. And I don't blame him, because Arn was particularly sweaty and oily tonight.
Arn Anderson from Appleton, Minnesota, although he's actually from somewhere in Georgia.
Appleton? Isn't that like where the first Best Buy was from?
Either that, and I think that's where Buck Zumhoff is from.
Oh, well, there's your brush with greatness.
Oh, Jesus. Not really.
So, early on, Regal kept selling his right ear, claiming that Anderson was hitting him. It's like,
I wonder if you could hear it.
That's what you do. You hit people.
You hit me in my ear. Now I'm deaf.
Regal is working over Arn's left arm. Arn countered with a hammerlock slam, and you're right. Regal was doing a lot of stalling in this.
Well, they had 30 minutes, almost 30 minutes, and probably not. These aren't two guys that are going to do flips and dives and all that stuff. So there's going to be some stalling here.
Lots of working over different body parts, different limbs. At one point, Arn is working over Regal's left arm. He slammed it into the ring post. Regal starts to work a cravat for about 20 minutes. Arn tries to get a near fall with a backdrop. I don't know what he is.
I picture a young Chris Hero watching William Regal do the cravat and saying, someday I'm going to do this move.
We get our first involvement from Sir William at about the 20-minute mark, jabbing his umbrella into Arn's neck and in the back of his, basically the back of the head.
His mouth might be busted open. Tony is not busted open. Don't worry about it.
Did they get like a larynx reference? No. That would have been a Vince call. His larynx has been destroyed.
Goddamn, pal, his larynx has been destroyed.
His epiglottis has been damaged.
That's a gorilla call.
Take him to a local medical facility. So with 5 minutes remaining, Regal puts the cravat back on him. Bobby is comparing Arn's head to a pumpkin or a gourd.
Like, a melon.
Okay, you managed Flair, you managed Arn, and now all of a sudden, because they're baby faces, you have to heel on them. That makes no sense.
Well, technically, he was the money advisor of Flair.
Well, I'm so glad we figured that out.
Wasn't Perfect, Mr. Perfect?
He was the executive consultant.
Or because Heenan couldn't handle being on the road with Flair.
So Arn hits a spine buster with 30 gimmick seconds left. Arn attempted a sunset flip from the outside. Regal dropped down. Sir William reached in with the umbrella, and Regal held on, and he got the pin with what they said was 6 seconds left. Turns out the match was 27 minutes and change. So
29:04.
They were lying to us.
Damn it! These timekeepers don't know how to do their job.
These are the same people that are timing out those 2-minute intervals in the Rumbles.
Oh, you get what you pay for.
Tag team title match, the Nasty Boys, without Missy Hyatt. But they were with a acoustic guitar, so that makes up for it.
Stealing Jeff Jarrett's gimmick early.
So they're taking on Cactus Jack and the Suplex Machine, Max Payne.
Missy Hyatt was pretty much let go from WCW around this time, and later in the year would sue somebody from that company for sexual harassment. So Missy Hyatt, the originator of the Me Too movement.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess she had kind of gone over Eric's head and went to the Turner Brass and basically said, am I fired? And they said, I don't know. We'll check with Eric. So we get
yeah. Okay, then.
We get Buffer again, who announces the Tag Team Heavyweight Championship of the World. Because, out of all of the weight classes, this is the Tag Team Heavyweight title match.
This is not Japan where they have a Tag Team Heavyweight, a Junior Heavyweight, a Never Open Weight.
This is not the middleweight tag team. Yeah.
WCW trying to do the Cruiserweight Tag Team titles when they only have 2 months left in the company.
Buffer also announces the most bizarre tag team in WCW history. And right off the top of my head, I thought, well, except for the Ding Dongs and the Mulkey Brothers and the American Males and the Dynamic Dudes, should I keep going?
The Flock?
Wearing black with skulls. Like it's a color. And
Max Payne!
And the most honest line of the night, Master of the Painkillers.
Master of recording the people that he works with, because that's what got him fired from WWF.
The Nasty Boys were wearing black and splash. Splash is a color, people.
Yeah, Michael Buffer, everybody.
So within the first 4 seconds, Max has suplex Knobs right on his head with a German. He gives Sags almost like a capture Tazplex. Max is manhandling both these guys, and then for some reason he tags out, even though he didn't really need to.
Goody.
Okay, I have never liked Nick Patrick as a referee, especially as heel NWO referee. Why the fuck did he always have to lie down completely, be completely horizontal before you're doing a count?
Who knows?
I bet he's watching Bronco.
Randy Anderson used to jump around to signify a submission.
Well, Patrick has decided. Patrick decides, okay, well, there's a near fall. I will lie down and take a nap, and then spastically fling my arms twice to indicate the count. Fuck.
God.
I'm getting unreasonably upset about this. That happened, 25 years ago?
25 years ago.
So
God.
The Nasties double team Max with the high-low that the Eliminators used to do.
Total elimination, but not quite.
And then Sags headbutts Max in the dick and goes to work on his leg. Cactus gets a hot tag, and he takes out both Nasties.
And then takes the nastiest bump of the night.
God. Cactus has Knobs set up for the apron, off the apron, elbow to the floor. Sags cuts him off. Knobs pulls back the pretty blue mats. Sags shoves Jack, who takes the fucking flat back bump on the concrete floor. And the announcers just barely reacted. Except for Tony, who said, "We need to see that again."
No, we don't.
Goddamn. And then they showed it again.
And Tony reminding us that, it wasn't all that long ago that Cactus took the power bomb from Vader on the concrete floor and it caused him to lose his memory.
Oh, yeah, they remind us of the fucking wretched Cactus amnesia angle.
Lost in Cleveland.
So, Knobs has... Okay, oh, god damn it. Okay, Knobs has Cactus in a Boston Crab. Max comes in to the ring illegally. And now, instead of saving his partner like a normal person would, he walks right past his partner who's being murdered and attacks Sags, who's just chilling on the apron.
Jesus Christ.
Then the ref is throwing Sags out of the ring. Max, instead of hitting Knobs and breaking the Boston Crab, grabs Cactus's hands and is pulling him closer to his own corner while still in the crab. This should hurt him more.
Oh, boy. We're wrestling logic, everybody.
The ref misses seeing the hot tag. Then Cactus finally does get the hot tag. Max comes back. Describe this belly-to-belly suplex on Brian Knobs.
He belly-to-belly... He looks... No, he belly to... I can't... He fucked it up.
Right?
He just picked him up and dropped him on his neck.
I don't know who's to blame here. I'm going to say Knobs because He fucking...
You should know how to take the fucking move.
He totally deadweights Max on this belly-to-belly. Max lifts him up, attempts to throw him. Knobs lands right on the top of his fucking forehead. His body scorpions like Lita. And his arm is fucked for the rest of the night. And his right arm...
And Heenan's like, I think I broke his arm. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, his right arm is just sitting there dangling like a piece of string. So then Max puts the painkiller, which is the Fujiwara armbar, on Knobs' good arm. This immediately leads to the finish, which I believe was probably unscheduled. Sags grabs the acoustic guitar and just bonks Max in the back of the head twice, right in front of the referee.
Start along, skip with the protuberance. Oh, wait, that's another company.
So, still champions, but fucked 6 ways from Sunday are the Nasty Boys.
Luckily, their TV matches have probably already all been taped.
Well, that's the thing. They got rid of Missy, but Missy had weeks of worldwide appearances that they still showed.
WCW, everybody.
Buffer with the most unenthused announcement in the history of combat sports. Still, your champions, the Nasty
Boys.
But I gave that too much emphasis right there. And then they replayed the botched suplex spot where Knobs broke his face and his arm and his body and...
My body!
We got
my leg!
He kicked your leg out from your leg.
Oh, that happened in another company.
So Mean Gene is back again with Flair and Steamboat standing side by side. And they're pushing the hotline. And if you call the hotline now for 99 cents a minute, you can talk with Max Payne and Cactus Jack.
Who actually, I guess they won by DQ, but they technically didn't win the belts. So at least the hotline plug is for somebody who won this time.
And Gene is, he asks Flair, hey, get your belt in the picture here. We got to do an interview with you holding the fucking belt. God damn it, what kind of unprofessional prick are you? That's exactly what he said. Well, okay, I may be paraphrasing.
That would be on YouTube if that was what he said.
That'd be awesome. So we got Flair on one side holding his... what I really liked, I loved that WCW World title. Like, the belt. I wasn't a fan of the giant...
The one that Nick Aldis has now?
No, it's like the round WCW World title that Ron Simmons and Vader won.
Oh, the big gold.
No, not that one. It wasn't the giant dinner platter belt.
Where you can get all your appetizers from Applebee's.
I can't imagine the number of lines of cocaine that have probably been snorted off that big gold belt.
They should write a book about that.
So Gene says that, hey, there's a man in Florida, a very good friend of mine, that's going to watch this match with great interest. It's the great Hulk Hogan. And then Flair, who has completely forgotten about history, says, hey, if we ever hook up, it'll be the biggest thing in the history of pro sports.
Well, I mean, they never actually had a big pay-per-view match. They had a house show run, but they never fought on pay-per-view.
They met. I went back, and according to me and the research I did, between November 1991 and March 1992, they met 65 times.
And every match ended in the count-out.
Hey, if it ever happens, it'll be the biggest thing in pro sports. Bigger than Super Bowls and bigger than Stanley Cups.
Daytona 500s, which I'll never get the popularity in NASCAR.
They drive around in circles for 500 miles turning left.
They're making a left turn!
They're making another left turn!
Goddamn pal, they're making another left turn.
So Flair's already looking past Vader, and then Arn Anderson comes in, and he's going to give Rick a pep talk. And my thought is, hey Arn, you lost. Why the hell would I want to take advice from a loser like you?
Well, between the guy who actually got booked in the show and the guy who didn't get booked on the show, who would you rather have the pep talk from? Mean Gene.
And then we get the Thunderdome cage is being lowered, and it's basically a Hell in a Cell with the playpen bars and no roof, and Ghetto Pyro.
And you can't escape it.
Oh, you can escape it all right. So this is our first of 2 Thunderdome cage matches. And
almost as bad as the Chamber of Horrors, which we'll talk about one day, I'm sure.
Oh, God, no. Veto. It's Rick
Johnny
Rude.
the Bull.
It's Ravishing Rick Rude, the WCW International Champion, because they didn't want to take the belt off Sting. The U.S. Champ Stunning Steve Austin, and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Now, speaking of Orndorff, he was one of the people that they interviewed in that 350 Days documentary.
Yep.
I don't know if there's anyone in this business that had a greater decline in the past 20 years than Paul Orndorff. It's sad.
Wonderful, they call. He needs Gary Spivey.
Here I am trying to be serious, talking about a man's downfall, and you're such a dick.
Nah.
They're taking on Sting, Flying Brian, and the cold and the naturals
can be.
We're having Angry Marks presents karaoke with Ronan and Mike. The cage door is closed and it's locked with the tiniest little padlock. They couldn't get a chain. They couldn't make it look unbreakable. No, this tiny little padlock that you would buy at Home Depot for like $4. And then Tony announces the rules. There's no DQ. The ref is only there to count the pin. But 2 guys are starting in the ring and their teams go to the apron like it's a standard 6-man tag. And they
reasons.
They patiently await to be tagged in legally. How often did they push this whole no DQ thing between these 2 cage matches? At least a dozen times.
And there's about 7 or 8 interferences in the Flair Vader one.
So Rude and Sting start out. Rude hits about 40 clotheslines. Rude bails to his corner, and like really good sneaky heels, neither of his partners want to tag in to help him out.
Because they don't want to get thrown in the cage.
Well, he's the man called Sting. He does this.
He does that.
He does that.
What does he do? He does this and that.
He's big as a bull and quick as a cat.
He looks bad. He looks cool. Something, 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 and he's nobody's fool. Except when Hulk Hogan comes in eventually.
So Pillman's offense consisted of 4, forward chops, forehand chops, not backhand chops, but just slaps to the chest. I always loved Pillman's chops. He always made him sound like they were gunshots. Yep.
Flying Brian!
Blondes have more fun.
Wasn't using that yet.
One day we just gotta do a whole episode of us just singing cheesy WCW theme songs.
Can't step to Ron.
Oh, what was another one of my favorites? Bunkhouse Buck.
Dun 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 dun.
Bow 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 dun dun
dun dun dun dun dun dun dun.
I want to get my guitar out now and start that. So in this non-DQ match, we have the heels doing legal tags in and out, while the baby faces are just standing on the apron,
being baby faces,
just like an idiot. Tony says he can stomp, he can choke, he can use whatever they want, except for double teams and countouts, because the referee has them. He's counting while the guy's out of the ring.
Who was the referee here? Was it Nicky Patrick?
Oh, I thought this was Pee Wee.
Randy Anderson, who got fired like 2 or 3 times a few years later.
So Rude goes to a neutral corner for a top rope knee drop. Dustin Rhodes is on the apron. He's literally like 6 feet from him. Why can't he just walk over and throw Rude off? Because it wasn't his spot.
It's not my spot.
Sting gets
my spot.
Sting gets a hot tag. Tony calls it Clothesline Mania, which
Brother.
I think Jerry McDivitt might have something to say about that.
Brother.
Not the first time that a WWF reference was done on this show. I think Bobby mistakenly referred to the boss as the Boss Man, and I think they got in trouble for that.
Yep. Well, he had to become the Guardian Angel.
Yeah. So at this point, Dustin still hasn't legally been in the ring yet because he wasn't legally tagged in this non-DQ match. And then he gets tagged in. And based on the crowd reaction, I thought Dustin was probably the most popular guy on this show so far because he got a pretty good reaction. I mean, it is Albany, Georgia, so those are his people.
Probably, even though he's in Texas.
Well, I don't know. Anything south of Montana is all the same anyways.
That's right. Jesus.
I said it.
You're a dick.
Oh, as if. They say anything north of Minnesota is all the same, too.
Probably.
We get a bear hug on Rude, by Rude on Dustin, and again, his partners are just standing there like morons. Finally, all 6 guys realize it's no DQ, and they all start brawling on the inside.
Why have we spent the last 10 minutes on the apron?
I'm positive they weren't told that this was supposed to be no DQ. And then Sting...
That seems like something they would go over in like a pre-match meeting or something nowadays.
There were no production meetings for this. Come on. You know better than that.
The production meeting at a local Denny's.
So Sting grabs his partner Sly and Brian, press slams him onto Austin, and Pillman pins Austin at, 11 minutes. This match got cut by about 10 minutes.
Because you have to do the bad Garvin segment.
Right. So post-match, Rude slams the cage door on Sting and then hits a Rude Awakening on the floor.
Setting up Spring Stampede.
These idiot directors show a slow-mo of the replay of the cage door, and Sting's hands are clearly in front of his face by a good 8 inches. Craig Leathers can suck my dick.
He's no Kerwin Silfies.
Why am I so mad today? God.
You're an angry Mark.
I am. Well played. Where's my harmonica?
Oh, boy.
Okay, I don't have harmonica, but I have R2. There we go. Thank you.
D2.
Video recap of the events leading up to the main event.
Vader superplexing Flair at the Clash, and then making a big deal of it because years ago Flair was in a plane crash.
I was in a praying crash right now. I was praying the show would be over. Yeah, we're going to compare a plane crash to
taking a superplex.
To a 6-foot superplex. Mind you, I wouldn't want to take either. So,
especially from Vader.
So Buffer is back. He announces the special referee is the boss, who of course is the big boss man.
Who's the boss now, boss?
Vader makes his entrance with his fuzzy Liberace cape like he's King of the North.
Accompanied by a handsome Harley Race.
The boss has an unadvertised match with the cage door and the padlock. He has a very difficult time.
He would also have an unadvertised match with handcuffs and Harley Race later.
He was having a hell of a time trying to get this tiny little cage door closed.
I do not know how to close this cage door. I have never closed a cage door before.
So Vader is wrestling with a black tank top under his singlet because apparently he had some sort of wicked staph infection. So that's what I wanted.
Which staff member gave him the infection?
If I have a staph infection on my chest, the one person I don't want to wrestle is Ric Flair, who's going to chop the Jesus out of you. So it's another no DQ match. The ref
Flair brings a chair with him. One chair.
What was with Flair's chair shots?
I don't know.
He's holding the chair upright.
Looks like he's just tapping Vader on the head with the chair.
And then just walks towards him and bonks his head with it.
He tapped him on the head with it. I knight you, Sir Vader of chair.
Oh, God. We're almost done, folks. So Vader hits another top rope superplex. Flair is on the outside again. Harley's trying to interfere, and the boss catches him this time. He warned him one time, but this time he catches him. And he tries to handcuff Race to the cage. Vader then runs in and squishes the boss, and he handcuffs the boss to the cage, unconsciously not realizing that he can't win the title if there's no referee.
Big man, not very smart.
Vader and Race are double teaming Flair. I guess somehow they got into the cage because the boss was wearing the key around his neck. Arn Anderson comes in to help, but he's completely useless. And then Ricky Steamboat comes down to the ring, and he tries to beat the padlock off with a chair. And it's one of those great big padded chairs, so it's a lot heavier than your standard steel chair. And he's just whacking at this tiny little lock that's about the size of a keychain, and he's missing it.
The boss having a battle with the cuffs and saying "fucking A."
So the plan is for the boss to eventually break out of the handcuffs, but the director is so fucking stupid. They miss the camera shot where not only does he break his handcuffs, they miss the shot where he attacks Vader and clubs him in the knee, giving him the old Nancy Kerrigan treatment.
Why?
So inexplicably, we just see the boss running into the frame, and we're told that he has clipped Vader in the knee with his nightstick. Flair slaps on the sloppiest figure four you've ever seen, and then the boss immediately calls for the bell. Only then does Doug Dillinger magically appear with bolt cutters, and as the baby faces leave, Vader's having a tantrum, and Heenan is taking great offense to the fact that Vader lost, and damn it, he's a broadcast.
Vader never gave up.
He's a broadcast journalist, and he's going to find Bockwinkel, and he's going to get to the bottom of this.
Vader never gave up.
And then Tony...
Boss just rang the bell.
Tony thanks us for watching this show.
Credits.
And they roll the credits. And if you're watching the network and you leave the show on and you don't turn it off, you get an automatic thumbnail preview for the next Superbrawl, which is what happened when I was watching it. And then I saw Superbrawl 5 featuring The Butcher and Avalanche and Hogan and Vader, and I forgot how wretched that show was too. So as far as the stats go on this show, the show drew a house of about 7,600.
In Albany, Georgia.
They probably didn't draw 76,000 in all of 2000 or 1994.
I don't know.
So,
maybe. I don't think they drew 76,000, but I'm sure they drew well with the Hogan Flair series.
So 7,600 people, of which 4,217 was paid, which
not a good number paid,
which equaled a gate of $39,000. Now they also did a gimmick of giving away 4 free tickets to anyone that turned in a handgun. Did you know about this?
What?
Which supposedly garnered a total of 290 guns and giving away more than 1,000 tickets.
Oh, WCW, everybody.
What is more Georgia than that?
Oh, boy.
Early estimates of this show said it was about a 0.45 buy rate, which equaled about 99,000 buys. At the time, they were thrilled with. The Jimmy Garvin angle, I don't think it needed to be on here. I think Regal and Anderson, as good as I thought of a story they told by Basic Wrestling, they could have done that same match in 15 minutes instead of 30, and given the cage matches more time.
All right.
So,
I said, the first half is kind of a slog and a rough to get through, but once you get to the Regal Arn and then you get to the last 3 matches, it's pretty good. But yeah, all in all, you don't really need to watch this.
No, the work rate in the last 3 matches I thought was pretty good. It doesn't make up for the undercard, so don't go out of your way to watch this unless,
unless you have that kind of time.
Unless you want to watch cage matches that are no DQ but actually do have rules.
For some reason. Ah, yes.
On that note, that is episode 15. Mike?
I have the next pick.
I shudder to think.
I've got for you WWF Unforgiven 2000.
Unforgiven 2000. I remember the poster for that one.
That is the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin in the whole Who Hit Stone Cold angle.
Is there a Triple H Benoit match on that one?
That's No Mercy. So there's Triple H angle.
All right, run us through that one.
We have the Acolytes and the Dudleys against the Right to Censor. We have Taz against Jerry Lawler in a strap match. We have a hardcore title invitational with champions Steve Blackman, Al Snow, Crash Holly, Test, and Funaki. One of those names is not like the other.
Number one announcer.
We have Jericho and X-Pac. We have Hardy's and Edge and Christian in the cage. We have Rikishi and Eddie for the IC title. We have Triple H and Angle with no DQ and Foley as the ref. And we have we have the return of Stone Cold. And then we have the Fatal 4-Way for the WWF title. Rock, Benoit, Taker, and Kane.
Again, one of those names does not belong in there.
One of those names is the mayor of Knox County.
And then one of them said he's dead. The Colonel. I said he's dead.
And that show will be in 2 to 3 weeks at best.
Who the hell knows these days?
And on that note, I think we're done here.
Thanks very much for listening, everybody, and bye.
Bye.
Craig Leathers can suck my dick.